After going through this video, you will be able to list various rules and conventions to name a function, assign default values to function arguments, explain the difference between a local and global variable, explain global variables with the help of an example. In the previous video, we learned about functions like how to define them, what are the different parts that make a function, how a function is executed. But there are still a few more exciting things we can explore about functions, starting with how to name a function. To name a function, we follow certain rules and conventions. First is, a function name can only contain alphanumeric characters or the underscore. It cannot have any of the special characters like exclamation, dash, or even a dollar. Next, a function name cannot start with a number. It must start either with an alphabet or an underscore. Next, if a function name contains two or more words, we need to use an underscore to separate them. Lastly, the name of the function should be self-explanatory. That is, just by looking at the name of a function, one should be able to tell what the function does. For example, in our code, we use the function name getMax. We can see that this function name ticks all the rules and conventions that we have listed down. Also, the name of the function is self-explanatory, as it tells us the maximum of a group of numbers. We can also assign default values to function arguments. For example, the code which we used earlier, we were assigning the values to the function arguments when the function was being called. So instead of assigning values here, we can also assign values to function arguments here. Let us define the value 0 to the second function argument b. This default value comes into play only when we are calling the function, as we don't pass a value for these arguments. In our case, we have defined the value of the function argument a when the function is being called, but we have not defined the value of b here. So, when the program is being executed, the function argument b will automatically be assigned the value 0, which we have defined in the function definition part. Now, if we run the code, we will see the output as 0 like this. You might be curious to know what if we pass the value of the function argument b while calling the function. This means the value of function argument is defined at two places, one at the function definition part and one at the function calling part. And in both the parts, the value of b is different. So which value of b will the program take while executing? In such cases where we explicitly pass the values of function arguments, the default value is ignored and is replaced by the new value. This means in our code, the value of the function argument b will become 10. And if we execute the code, we can see the output as 10. Next, we have another concept, scope of a variable. It means that how a variable is defined in a function, and depending on the way it is defined, the variable behaves differently. There are two ways in which a variable is defined in a function, that is, locally and globally, and we call the variables in such cases as local and global variables respectively. When a variable is defined within the function, it is called a local variable, and in such cases, the variable is available only inside that function. For example, this is the code which we used earlier. In this case, the variable is defined locally as it is defined inside the function getMax. Coming to global variables, these are the variables that are defined outside a function and are available anywhere outside the functions but never inside of any function. Sounds complicated, right? Let us simplify this with the help of this example and its output. Here, we have defined a variable named ABC and we have initialized it with hello world. Since the variable is defined outside of any function, it is a global variable and is not available from inside of any function. Next, we have defined a function a in which we have initialized a variable with hey. Even though this variable's name is the same as that of the global variable abc, this variable is totally different. This is because global variables are not accessible from inside of any function. So when we write $abc for the first time inside a function, it is treated like an unknown variable. And when we initialize it with some value, it is defined as a new local variable whose scope is just within this a function. This makes the global variable remain unaffected outside. Next, we have defined another function b that simply prints the variable abc. But here, $abc is an unknown variable, and since here we are printing it without initializing any value to it locally, it remains undefined. This means it will print nothing and will show us a message as undefined variable. Then we have simply called the function a, which will print hey without affecting the global variable ABC. After this, we have again called the function b. This will print nothing as the local variable is not initialized with any value. And lastly, we are printing the global variable ABC. Since the global variable is not changed anywhere, once it has been initialized, it will print hello world. So, based on our understanding of the execution of this program, the output should be this. Let us run the program and see if it matches with the output that we have calculated. Good job. The output is exactly the same as we have calculated. Global variables is an extensive topic which we will continue to explore in the next video. See you then.